Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning to the beautiful people in Ikorodu. And I welcome you to the issues on IKD 106.1 FM. You already know how we do it on the issues every Thursday, where we talk about matters that concerns our health. Health is wealth, and it is important that we do this every Thursday in line with General Hospital Ikorodu. And of course, today is another good Thursday, the 14th day in the month of September, the year 2023. To get talking, and when I say talking, we will talk about suicide prevention today. Suicide prevention is what our conversation will be upon today. My name is Okpayemi Adebambo. I'll be your host, and I also have my guest in the studio all the way from General Hospital Ikorodu. As a matter of fact, she is part of the committee when we talk about the Mental Health Committee for General Hospital Ikorodu, in person of Mrs. Abosede Adediran. Together we would have this conversation on suicide prevention. But I should let you know that suicidal stories has become a trend today in our nation, which is very, very alarming. It has been said that not fewer than 79% have committed suicide in Nigeria. That was for last year, 2022. As a matter of fact, at this moment, the figures are said to be increasing, which is very, very disturbing and alarming. That is why a lot of bodies, a lot of persons out there have been preaching against suicide. Suicide is not an option. And of course, today on the issues, we would also let you know that suicide indeed is not an option. Okpayemi Adebambo is the name. Suicide prevention is the conversation we will be having today. We go on a very short breather. When we return, the issues continues on IKD 106.1 FM. Good morning, Lagos. Of course, you can always join this conversation from anywhere all over the world via our website www.ikd1061fm.ng. We are also available on all social media handles, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All you need to do is search for us, IKD 106.1 FM. Today on the issues, we talk about suicide prevention. And just so you know, again, my guest is no other than Mrs. Abosede Adediran. Good morning to you, ma.
Good morning.
It's good to have you in the studio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for availing us the time to talk to us today, and to everyone out there that will be listening to you. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
So let's get talking. We want to talk about suicide prevention, of which I know you're very conversant with. You've had your wealth of experience in line with the mental health. And we cannot talk about mental health and not talk about suicide, because it starts definitely from the mental side of human. So when we say suicide in its context, for better clarification, as a medical practitioner, how best can you describe or define the word suicide?
Okay. Let me just simplify and say that suicide is when someone decides to take his or her life. Intentionally. I remember on Monday we were in a government secondary school in Ikorodu here.
Okay.
And that's the mental health committee went, to visit the school. Because on Sunday was a World Suicide Prevention Day.
Oh, yes.
So on Monday we were there, and it was quite interactive, and from the questions that the students that they wrote, because we have to they should write the questions and submit, we found that the secondary school students, some of them are already thinking of suicide.
Secondary school students.
This is quite alarming.
Wow.
This is quite alarming, because a lot of from the questions, people go through a lot, and since they don't have access to the right people to talk to, they decide to do things their own way, and it's quite unfortunate that a lot of things are happening. That's just
I know that there are causes to this. For you to say that there are secondary school students who are already thinking of committing suicide, that is very terrible. There are different causes to committing or wanting to commit suicide, which is attempted suicide case. But before we even talk about some of the causes to suicide, I want to ask, with the experiences you have is it okay to say there are types of suicide? Because most often we know that what we see on TV, we hear on radio, we see online on social media is someone wants to jump from one bridge down to the lagoon. Sometimes, are there types of suicide? Is there anything called types of suicide?
I will say that it's not really type of suicide.
Okay.
And like in Nigeria, what is common, it's about 3.
Okay.
We have people poisoning themselves intentionally. We see that with the case of people taking sniper. You know, they just want to end it all and everything. And we see people trying to jump into the lagoon. Some have been rescued, like the case of Elizabeth that happened just last month. She was trying to like end it all with her baby, and thank God she was rescued. And so we also have people, you know, hanging themselves. Yeah, those 3, they are the most common that we have.
They're the most common.
Yeah.
So if we cannot say that there are types of suicide, but then there are different ways at which people intend to carry out this act or end their lives, I want us to talk about the causes. You know, the essence for this conversation today is how we can prevent suicide, you know, in our society, our communities, our nation at large. But then I want to ask you now that, is it even possible? Do you think it is possible for us to have a 0 suicide rate in Nigeria? How possible is that? How visible is that, if at all?
Let's talk about the causes. From the causes, we can now look at it. What can be done?
Okay.
That will bring it down to that 0 point you're talking about. Because without actually dealing with the causes, we are not ending anything. We're not ending anything.
But then before that causes is something that is like the key conversation. This is the reason why those people are doing what they do. What are the signs, you know, for people that stays around person? If this young boy or this man intends to commit suicide, having that thought in his head or her head, what are the signs people around them should watch out for, or they should just say that I think this person wants to commit suicide? Are there signs, symptoms, or what?
Yes, there are. I remember on that Monday, our consultant psychiatrist, Dr. Adesoji, was addressing the student, and you know, he was telling them some things that personally that happened to him, and what makes him to be able to, like, as a psychologist, it's you know, very easy for him to know that this one is suicidal. You know, so you know, and from my own experience, when you see someone that used to dress nice, you know, and all of a sudden you see the person dressing shabbily, something is going wrong, you know, with that person. So if you are close to the person, you should call the person that, what's going on? What's going on? You're looking unkept. What's going on? You know, but people tend to look at you that maybe he doesn't have time, but something is going on. That person is neglecting himself. And you know, and from that point of neglect, anything can happen. So you see that what goes on in the mind, that's why the issue of mental health is very important. What goes on in the mind is really what triggers suicide. So when we talk about mental health now, a lot of people always they start looking at the madman on the street as that man is insane.
Oh yes, that is the first thought that comes to the mind.
When you see, like an average conductor, bus conductor, it's very aggressive. You know, mentally, something is going on in his brain. So a lot of things triggers people's actions, and when this action continue, whatever triggers it, if it continues, that's why when you were saying something about bringing it to a 0 point.
Yes.
What triggers that thought, that suicidal thought? If it's not addressed, that person might end up committing suicide. Because the real factor here is, what is making this person think this way? What is making this person hopeless?
The root of the matter.
Yes. What is making this person feel is like, I'm alone in the world. Nobody cares about me. So if I'm gone, so that has to be dealt with.
So you know, when I talk about what are the things people should look out for around the people that are around their areas, You talked about, for instance, their dressing, nonchalant attitude to activities anymore.
Yes.
You know, can the society also be part of some of the things one could look out for, you know? Because I feel society also has a role to play on this. But before we even get to that, because there's a major question on that, let's talk about the causes of suicide. If you're just joining us, this is the Issues on IKD 106.1 FM. The Issues on IKD 106.1 FM. Today we talk about suicide prevention. And just like I said during the opening glee, that suicide gradually is becoming the order of the day. A lot of persons are seeing suicide as an option in ending the misery, so to say, of life, which we do not agree with. And that is why we have this conversation, suicide prevention, on the Issues today. Mrs. Abosede, tell us, what are the causes of suicide?
Okay, I'll talk about four things here. The first one I'll talk about is life experiences.
Okay.
What people go through every day. It might be on their jobs. It might be probably in their relationships. And these things, the way it's been handled, it tends to affect people. You know, if someone is in a relationship and breaks up, some people can easily move on. But some, it can take them years. And that's mental health we're talking about. So when things happen like that and the person, you know, keep experiencing probably a breakup, the person begins to think somehow. Unless there are people around that can actually counsel this person properly and let this person know that, see, life goes on. You must do everything to move on. It takes a lot to move on, you know. So those options, why you have to move on, is what you have to open the eyes of the person to. So life issues, the way we handle it is different. The way we handle life issues is different, and that's, you know, that's one of the major causes.
Life experiences.
Yeah, losing a job and everything. You see, some people might have seen quite a lot of people that probably they lost their job and they became something else. You know, they began to abuse substance, you know, taking all manners of things, and it just felt that there is no more hope. They became hopeless. And the next thing is that what they used to do, they can't do anymore. So what's the essence of being alive, you know? So then another thing we'll talk about, the second one is trauma. A lot of people have gone through trauma, probably in their upbringing. They're growing up. Like one of the students, the question the student asked, you know, is like, she said her parents are late, and the people that she's staying with, that she's looking for a way to escape, you know. But thank God for the mental health committee's presence in the school on Monday. You know, thank God for that, because we have to let the teachers know that this student, let them have access to the hospital because of the clinic, so that they can come and, you know, there will be help for them, instead of them being in the school and there's no help. You know, they're with their peers and they don't know what to do. So people go through trauma, probably, you know, it could be psychological. I don't have, my parents are dead. The people I'm staying with, the way they are treating me. Some can be as a result of violence or sexual abuse, things like that. So it goes on affecting them, and because it's left untreated, it becomes an issue, you know. And you see that in the way some react as a result of the trauma. The girl might decide that I don't want to talk to boys, I don't want to do anything with a boy, because probably she has been raped, you know, and the person that raped her is on the loose, no justice. So a lot of things do go on in the area of trauma. And trauma, if help is sought, the person can really be healed. But if not, it can turn to a suicidal thought. You know, it keeps coming that this thing has been done, there's nothing to be done. So what's the essence?
What's the essence of living?
So, and the third one, which is very important, is a mental illness.
Mental illness.
Yeah. we can overemphasize this because it's one of the causes of suicide. And that is why when you seek help on time, when you go to mental health clinic, you will be able to, know your state of mind. Because on the street, at times when you are driving, you see people the way they drive. At times when people are crossing the road, you see the way they cross the road. You're wondering, is this person okay? At times the person is even thinking, has forgotten that he's on the road. Things like that. That means something is happening to this person. So mental illness, in that respect, then the one that we always everybody talks about, when you see the madman, that one is a full-blown madness. You say this person is mentally unstable, this person is this, but we have a lot of people in offices, at home, that are mentally ill. And this is very, very important. People need to seek help before they do what they're not supposed to do. How will you have your children at home, and you say that probably you have a nanny, you have someone taking care of them, and you are not even sure of the mental state of the person? So anything could happen to those children. An abused person can abuse another person. So it's really something that needs help, should be sought. And thank God, Ikorodu General Hospital, there is clinic days, and we encourage people to visit the hospital. It's not for mad people, no. When you hear anything like mental health, don't, when I wear my uniform, a lot of people ask me questions, and I keep telling them, it's not, when you talk about mental health, it's more than just a madman on the street. It's about you, how you react. You're on your job, and you keep shouting on people. Something is wrong with you.
Always aggressive.
Yeah, when you're aggressive, so calm down and check what's going on with me. Do I need to go for a clinic?
But some would say that is just me. This is how we are. We are always very. Some would say in my family we are aggressive. That's another side of the conversation, actually. So if when you're talking about the causes, and you mentioned that General Hospital Ikorodu has the agency and the mental health clinic, I want to ask: are there no agencies, no bodies that maybe in Lagos or Nigeria? Now, my question is this: for other matters, we would hear that these are the bodies that are in charge of these. And now, when we talk about suicide, which is becoming very, very troubling in our nation, are there no bodies that are in charge that maybe their job is just for them to start roaming around the Third Mainland Bridge with their vehicle and checking, is there anybody that wants to commit suicide? Are there no bodies that are just going from house to house, community checking or asking questions? Is there anything like that?
There are. Even for General Hospital Ikorodu, when the MD, Dr. Taiwo Azen, after the visit to the school, it was like advocacy. We have to do something in Ikorodu. If the students are thinking this way, we have to do something. And there's also a helpline. I'll drop that before leaving.
Oh, yes.
Lagos State helpline that anyone can call if you are going through, suicidal thoughts and everything. Lagos Mind. They'll, the person that will take the call, they know what to do. So there are bodies, that are taking care of this aspect of.
So when you say the causes, you talked about the life experience, you talked about trauma, you talked about mental illness, and the fourth one, which I think you said you have about major four causes of suicide. Yes, yeah. What's the fourth one?
The fourth one is family history.
Family history.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, is suicidal thought hereditary? Is it something that passes on and on?
It's not that it's hereditary, but there's something about suicide.
Okay.
That's why, as much as possible, we have to disabuse people's mind from doing it. When you see a family that probably the father hung himself, there's a trauma in that family. And if anybody is going through something, the best option is that, okay, if grandfather hung himself, I think, so you see it happening, and you see it happening in that.
They begin to see this as the only solution.
So that the best thing is disabuse people's mind from thinking that direction. Because once it's happened, that's why we tell people that, if you commit suicide, it's going to affect the person that is your neighbor. It's going to affect your family. Because they will start having that trauma. It's going to lead to a trauma. Because how will you do it? You're outside and somebody tells you, you keep quiet. You that your father hung himself at the back of the house. That's trauma. So you see people thinking that direction because of something that happened in the family. So you have that family history.
So family history is another one, just like mental illness, trauma, and life experiences. If you're joining the program, if you have questions in line with our conversation, talk about suicide prevention. All you need to do is send in your questions, your thoughts, opinions, and observations to our studio line 0904 082 1061 0904 082 1061. Along the line, we would also open the phone lines where you can call in to ask questions from our guest in the studio, Mrs. Abosede Adediran, Mental Health Committee. The studio lines are still the same, 0904 081 1061 or 0904 082 1061. But before we start taking in calls and text messages, I want us to then talk about another side of this conversation. Mrs. Abosede, pardon me. Some believe that when you say suicide, it is only for the weaklings. It is only for people that are not strong enough, people that are not, they are not man, they are not smart, they are not brave, they are not willing to go extra mile. For you, what's your thought? What's your take on this? That suicide is it a thought for the weaklings?
Okay, I'll take it in this direction. Suicide thought is something that can affect anyone.
Not just for people that are assumed to be weak.
And, you know, do you know that a 7-year-old could be suicidal?
How possible?
Peer pressure. You know, people used to think that it's only adults that think of suicide. It's not. When you know, from counseling and everything, you find out that younger children now, they are thinking of suicide. You know, we were just like, actually, we were expecting questions. We were happy that they asked questions, but some of the questions we were really troubled. A student asked that, when you commit suicide, is it that when you are thinking of killing yourself, does it mean that it's suicide? So we were like, if you want to kill yourself, that means it's suicide. Or are you trying to give another name to it? No, it's suicide. You want to end everything. So we are having issues with young children. And some of the things that is triggering this thing is, like, for one, a student asked that is because she's not, I think probably she believes she's not, probably students are telling her she's not beautiful.
So the low self-esteem sets in.
The low self-esteem. So this person is already thinking that I'm not beautiful, I'm not fine. And she's going. And thank God for Dr. Adesoji. He said something that when he was 13 years, he had that issue. You know, because it was small, you know. So you find that what makes people to think of suicide, not the adults now. The adults are probably because they are not able to make enough money, make ends meet. So they have their own. But when you look at the young ones now, what is making them to think of suicide? Some, they are in school, and the courses they are reading is not what they want. They are being forced, and they are developing, and they are thinking of a way out. I don't want to study medicine. My father said I should study medicine. I don't want this course. My mother said this. So you find that those in the university, they are thinking in that direction. Secondary school, a student asks a question that he doesn't want to come to a boarding school, and they forced him to come to a boarding school, and the student is looking for a way out. So a lot of things happen with children, the way they think, and thank God for social media. A lot of false things. You know, people can change their face, and the person will look at himself and say, I'm ugly. This person, things like that, which are not real. So these children are exposed to a lot of things on social media that makes them think the way they think, and they are like looking for, okay, let me just go. Go where? Go where?
Thank you so very much for still staying with us on the issues today. Now, I want us to go to another side of this conversation. We would extensively talk about how to prevent suicide because that is key. That is the essence for our campaign right now. How best can we prevent suicide as an individual, as a body? How can suicide be made minimal? It's going to be difficult to say we are going to totally eradicate it.
Yes.
It's going to be very difficult to say that. But then, how can we minimize the outrageous figures that we're getting, because it's very, very troubling. But then, when we say suicide, and we know that this is an attempt, just like the way you've defined it, is an attempt for one to try to take his or her own life, there is a part of stigmatization. Stigma is another thing that has caused even more of other people thinking that, okay, so for you, what do you have to say about stigmatization? Some people don't want to speak up because they are particularly going through one thing or the other, and because some will decide to speak up, the stigma sets in, and from stigma it becomes suicide because everyone is talking about them. Oh, you could do such a thing. Oh, you were raped. Oh, you were this. Stigma is one major cause to suicide. What do you have to say to this?
Okay, I will say that, you asked the question. Let me start from where you asked it.
Yes, please.
You said something about we cannot totally eradicate it. Where do we start from? It starts from you. It starts from me. Let's take care of our mental health. Because if you are mentally fit, mentally okay, the person coming to you that is having any issue, you'll be able to notice, you'll be able to help. Because that's one of the things I told the students on Monday. I said, you have to make sure that you are okay. If you know anything is going on with you, try your best to take care of your mental health. Because somebody close to you is going through something. And if you are not in that state to help the person, the two of you are going. Because somebody that is thinking of suicide meets another person thinking of suicide, they will agree to carry out the suicide. So the issue of stigmatization, I always I tell myself and I tell people that somebody wants to commit suicide. Why do you now mark the person? Anyone can go that direction. So that person is going that direction does not mean that you cannot think about it. So you have to be very careful. The best thing you can do is to do, there are a lot of people on social media that when they see someone that wants, they see them sending funds to help someone. Because why? If you have not been there, you don't know what it's like. So it's an encouragement to people that come, when you see that, or you hear of someone that attempted suicide, the best thing for you to do is to encourage the person. Because that person, if you encourage the person, it might be the person that will save you tomorrow. You might be thinking that what will make me think. So many people that committed suicide, you will never know they could, because they were doing fine.
Are you saying that there is nobody that is above that thought of suicide?
Nobody.
Really?
Yeah. It comes, but when you are well equipped, you'll be able to handle it. Stress. A lot of people are under stress. And they will tell you stress management. If you can manage stress, then you won't break down. But if you don't manage stress, you break down. So that's what it is with suicide. If you cannot manage that suicidal thought, you can go down to suicide. So,
thank you so very much. Now, if you talk about the ways at which we can prevent suicide, let me first ask. I would open the phone line soon, so people can also ask you questions if they want to. Suicide, does it have to do with some particular set of people? For instance, they might just tell you that suicide is for those that they don't have money, the low life people. That is why they are thinking about suicide. Do we even have cases of a rich man, well-to-do, somebody who wants to think suicide? Is suicide just one-sided for some persons that have one major problem, or they do not have the finance to fund things and they now think the next thing to do is to commit suicide. Is suicide a one-sided thing?
The poor are committing suicide.
Mm.
The rich are committing suicide.
Mm.
So it's not for one set of, one of the things that do trouble people the most is when they hear of someone that literally, let's say, probably they were watching the person on social media, they felt this person is okay.
Mm.
Like there was a case of a woman, I think she works with the MTN, one of the, I've forgotten the company that killed herself. I think it was last year. You know, people were like, this woman is a top manager. She has money. She lives at VI, this, that. Why did she think suicide?
Mm.
It's because she couldn't manage the stress. And she went down that lane. So if you think that it's only the poor, probably because I don't have food to eat and decide to go, there are people that have food to eat and they are still willing to go.
Mm. Mm.
So anyone,
Anyone,
it's not
this is
for
irrespective of your age,
no,
irrespective of your
no,
worth.
no.
09040811061 or 09040821061. Those are the studio lines at which you can call in to ask questions in line with our conversation. Suicide prevention. Hello to you. Good morning.
Good morning, Jim.
Yes, thank you very much. Your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Larry. I'm calling you from.
Larry, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm fine. And you?
Go ahead. Thank you.
So I guess I salute you. My,
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you when the uncle asked you special somebody is different or in that kind of thing. Only thing based on one thing. And I think when the person has been that is speaking something, the time to hold something and someone has been very bad by before. All of a sudden they start keeping things up, start being more, start being not shared credit. Definitely something is wrong. And as a friend or an absolute that person, you can actually get through to that person about what's wrong with you. So on the normal day, we see you jumping up, jumping down, we see you running around the street. But nowadays, you just sit down in a one corner and you don't even know what's wrong with you. And that's another way by person will know that this person is totally depressed or into one way or the other.
Yeah.
I just said I should show you more light on that. And also, when we talk about depression, like she has said, the psychology thing. So when the brain is thinking that the only solution is just for me to just take it and do what you do. As a parent, as a guy here, we have a lot of work to do. When you have a child or you are a custody of a child is being left to you, I believe that we should have studied what the child can do, his limit and his non-limit. Whenever we see that child like, this guy, this child, something is wrong, we will know how to like approach something child. That's what I show my own thoughts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Larry. Thank you very much. Very well, sir. Thank you. Hello to you. Good morning. Your name and where you're calling from. This is Opayemi speaking. Wasiu, how are you doing today? Wasiu, talk to us. We talk about suicide prevention today. Do you have questions for our guest? Please go ahead. How can someone control stress? Okay, just stay tuned, and she would do justice to that. Thank you very much. Before we go ahead with other calls, Mrs. Abosede, can we just attend to the second caller, Wasiu, who is asking the question, how can you deal with stress?
Okay, Mr. Wasi, thank you for the question. I will start by saying that we have different types of stress. So you have to check yourself what's actually the cause of the stress. You know, that's how you start to be able to know what to do. If you are probably at work,
Okay.
If you are doing more than you can do, probably if you have a senior colleague or someone you can talk to, you have to let the person know that my strength can't take, I can't.
I'm doing too much.
I'm doing too much. So don't keep quiet and die in silence.
Mm.
You know, like people, I've seen quite a lot of people in my office. At time, this one is doing this, doing that, doing that, doing that. We saying, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And after some time, the person now breaks down. I'll say, learn to speak out. Don't keep quiet. You are feeling this pain. You are feeling this pain. You are feeling. I said something about stress management that stress happens to all of us. You know, like some people that are driving and they saw traffic and they say like, no, let me drop my car. Let me take public. They know what they are trying to do because when you spend
that stress
hours of
driving,
by the time you get to your place of work, you are already tired. You're exhausted. And that's why you see people aggressive. They're really like, all the stress I've gone through, getting here, and they're still going to go back home. So you have to know what to do. If it has to do with probably, you're driving, and if you're driving long hours, you have to adjust. If you can't do without taking your car to your place of work, reduce it. That way you are reducing stress. Then if it has to do with finance also, finance also can lead to stress. And like they told us when we were growing up, they said cut your clothes according to your cloth, not your size. According to your cloth, because if it's according to your size, you might be under stress. Because the demand that will be placed upon you because of your size, the size can be in terms of you are a medical doctor. You are this, you are that, you are the MD of a bank. So people are coming and asking this and that. So you have to let them know, this is my budget for this month. So, and a lot of things, people like parties now. I've seen people that there's no clothes you bring to them that they will not buy. There was a day I met two people, they were really talking, they were really angry. And when they took the clothes, they were happy. So when the person left, these two elderly women, they were now complaining that, I said, ma'am, why didn't you just let this person know? Why? They're not looking, they're not thinking of how they would get money to pay. Say, why are you not stressing yourself? Now you are disturbed. You won't be able to work well because you're now looking at days. You have to pay this, you have to pay that. So a lot of things can make you have stress. So the best thing for you to do is sit down. You can take your pen. What's really giving me stress? Like the issue of BP. If you do your BP regularly, you'll be able to know what triggers it. Okay, I did this. When I did this, So when you monitor yourself that way, you'll be able to know what is actually causing you to have stress. Some people can do work. They can work for hours, and it won't amount to any stress on them, because of their capacity. So your capacity and what you can take, check it out. So you write it down. What is really, so that when you identify what is giving you stress, it's like the strain now. Somebody that's probably using glasses, you have a strain on your eyes and everything. So when you notice that, so a lot of things, when we talk about stress, stress is, how will I call it? You can say it's a general name for what people go through, but at the end of the day, you have to find out what kind of stress are you going through, and you sit down and you just write it out. What is making me to have this stress? Am I going off my limit? Some people take people into their homes. For example, I want to help my friend. Tell your friend that, please, I won't be able to take care of your needs. And you've already told your friend you can come. And the friend comes with the family. And they have to eat. And mind you, this your friend that came, select food. And you are now under stress. Because why? You want to meet up. Let your friend know, alright, I can't do this. This is what I can do. So we must always come out with what we can do and what we cannot do. Don't try to please anyone. Do your best and leave the rest.
And save your mental health.
Thank
you so very much. Before we return back to the phone lines, I see some of you still have some questions, but we still have a lot to talk about also here in the studio. Mrs. Abosede, how can we prevent suicide? How best do you think, or how best do you feel we can prevent suicide?
Okay, I will talk about our family and social life.
Okay.
Family is key. Like I think Larry, the caller that called in, he made mention of something, and I want to say that let's be observant. Let's be very observant. People go through a lot of things. You know how they probably, okay, you met someone and you've been moving with the person for 2 3 years. Is your brother, is your sister. You should know what this person does and how the person reacts. But when you notice that things are happening the other way, it's a sign that something is going on that nobody knows about. So it's a call for attention. You know, we can prevent suicide by being observant. Being observant in our homes, in our offices, around us. When we notice some things that are not happening before, let's not just let it go that way and say, okay, no, let's try and calm down and find out what's going on. What's going on? This is my neighbor. He usually come home every 6 p.m. for months. What's happening? Something is going on. So being observant. Then, like I said, we need support from our families.
Family support.
Families and friends. Those are ways that we can prevent suicide. When you have no one to talk to, and when you have no one to pour your heart to, even when your family decides to, like, are you the only one? And the person feel as if he does not have anyone. One of the things that can make someone think suicide is when he thinks in his heart that he is alone or she is alone. When you feel that, once you know that you have someone you can talk to, even if you are thinking of suicide, by the time you finish talking with the person, your mind is calm. So family support is very, very, very crucial.
Okay, so still talking about how we can prevent suicide, you talked about being observant, check these things around you, check these people, how do they behave before and they are no longer behaving that way. And then you went on further to talk about family, family and friends, actually, family and friends support. Aside those other two, do we still have some other ways at which we could prevent suicide in our nation?
Like the last caller made mention of social media.
Yes.
To anyone listening to me, say, social media is it's not everything that you see on social media that is real. There are a lot of fake things there. So if you really want to help yourself, please stop believing what you are saying. Because there are a lot of fake lives. And so when people go through some things, somebody is standing beside somebody's car or somebody's house. This is my house in Lekki.
Taking pictures, doing videos.
And you, that you have been working for like 20 years.
You're wondering what's going on with me.
And you're like, it's very, very, so if you want to help yourself, stop believing some of the things you see on social media. And stop taking advice from social media. You have your friends. Many of us, we have our religion. You're a Christian, you go to church. You're a Muslim, you go to the mosque.
Thank you very much. Now I want us to talk about, there are two categories of persons I want us to look at. First off, those that have made the attempt of committing suicide. And then we have those that are around those people that want to commit suicide. I've thought about it. So let's talk about those that have made the attempts. With what you do we have, how is it like for them, people that have tried to commit suicide? How is it like coming back, maybe after reviving them or convincing them? Is it always the same? Is it always rosy, or it just becomes, okay, see, let me just live my life?
To a lot that made the attempt, it's not really a good condition, because, like, depending on the type of suicide that the person actually, decide to go with. Like for those who go through use of poison, taking sniper, by the time probably you are revived and you survived, you're going to have problem with your stomach, because a lot of damages have been done internally. which you now become. There's a name I'm trying to remember. You know, you keep coming to the hospital for clinics, spending money. You know, on drugs
Because the system is damaged.
because you have already dealt with your body.
Mm.
So a lot of things happen for those who decide to jump. You know, probably they took in water and they pressed them and they're okay. They might be at least, you know, but majorly for those who are that take probably poison or poisonous substances into their system, it's not always the same health wise, because they will end up having health issues that they were not having initially. So that's like a double issue at hand. But aside that, the mental health, you know, anyone that has attempted suicide, if is not treated, has a tendency to want to try it again. Yeah. Because when I listened to the account of that Elizabeth, the sister, one of the things that she was saying, I knew that the lady is going through serious trauma, and the family could not really help her. It has become a recurring thing, you know, because the sister was like, she has, you know, she isolates herself. Those are some of the signs. Self-isolation, doesn't want to mix with people. So when you see people that are isolating themselves from others, they eat alone, or they are nervous, you know, any little thing they are panicking, something is wrong with them, you know. So in the case of the sister, you know, she was saying some of the things that she has been, the signs that she has been showing, that they knew that something was wrong, and they said they did their best. Anytime they noticed that, they tried to, you know, come around her and everything, but they were not able to do enough until she made that attempt. And she needs help. If she does not get help, she will still try to make that attempt, because her mind, it's a mental thing. If it's not well taken care of, the person will try to attempt it again.
You belong to Mrs. Abosede. You belong to the mental health committee,
Yes.
General Hospital. Tell us, what should be the first thing people around someone who wants to commit suicide, who has made an attempt of suicide? What should be the first thing people around them should do? Should they just try to cancel the person, advise the person, or bring the person? I'm trying to look at how the hospital works with this. What's the relationship between someone who is trying to commit suicide and then your mental health committee? How does it set in? What should one do when you know that this person wanted to commit suicide, either by hanging, by taking poisonous substance, or by jumping into the lagoon? What should be the first thing we should do to such a person?
Okay, such a person, we need to show love, because at that point, that person is mentally unstable. So you have to be very careful what you say and what you do. That's not the time you tell the person that, what do you think you're doing? Why do you want to kill yourself? The person has every right. What is going on in the head of the person is that, let me die. So you don't need to tell the person that, why do you want to kill yourself? That is not going to calm the person down. There are soothing words that should come. So when the person is now calm, you might decide to like, have you eaten? Let's go and eat. You know, from there, you'll be able to like, what happened? What happened? Okay, have you visited the hospital? You know, so like that, you are able to bring the person. Say, because one of the things that the chairman of the mental health committee was saying is that when you tell an average person that we have a mental clinic, they look at you.
I didn't tell you I'm running mad. I'm not psycho.
You know, but that's not it. So you have to let people know that it can happen to anybody. This thing can happen to anybody. And when it happens to you, this is what you should do. So we have to be there to let the person know this is what you ought to do. So by asking questions and finding out what's really going on, you know, like some people will say it's spiritual, you know. Our chairman said something on Monday. He said, he normally tell people that come for clinic that say it's spiritual. He said he will give them some time. He said, go and pray.
Okay.
Go and fast. He said, after so period, if this thing refuses to go, then you will be on drugs. You will be on medication. You will be on this. You'll be on, you know. so that you can help yourself and get treated and calm your nerves. You know, so what I'm saying in essence is this: anyone who has attempted suicide has the tendency of thinking that direction.
Again.
So what the person will need counseling, because something is already, there's something that has triggered off, and that thing can easily be triggered again. So for it not to be triggered again, you need counseling. So that at the very point, some, it's not drugs or medications that they need. Some will have to be on medication.
So for someone who made attempt of committing suicide and was rescued, all well and good, are you saying that it could get to a point where there will be medications for such a person?
Like I mentioned, the issue of trauma.
Okay.
If a person is healed,
Mm.
if the person is not healed and it continue over a time, there's a relapse. There are people that probably they've already known them that, see, once this person start behaving this way, this person has stopped taking his medication. They take the medication to calm. Once they
So
become
there are medications
aggressive,
that can make one calm.
yeah, they're aggressive.
Mm.
So that means that person has already developed a mental illness as a result of mental health challenges that he or she has faced over time. It's not something that happens just like that. It's a period of time.
Builds up.
So it's a build up. So it's only when it has gotten to, we call it the elastic limit, that's the breaking point, that you now start seeing the manifestation.
Mrs. Abosede, I want to say thank you so very much for your time. It was actually thoughtful of you to stop by and talk about this suicide prevention, propagating the gospel to everyone out there. But before you leave, Mrs. Abosede, tell us, what would your advice be to everyone listening to you right now? Your parting words to all of our listeners.
Listeners, I want to tell you that you are beautiful, you are handsome, and don't let anyone think less of you. And don't, because of anything, decide to end your life by yourself through suicide. Suicide is not an option. And you can always visit the clinic if you are in Ikorodu. You can visit the mental health clinic on Tuesdays and Fridays, and you will be attended to. And also, let me give a...
on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Tuesdays and Fridays.
Nice.
There's a helpline I would like to give.
Yes, please.
That's Lagos Mind. 090
090
9000
9000
6463.
6463. Please take it again.
090 9000
Yes.
6463.
63. What line is that?
That's Lagos Mind. It's
Lagos
a helpline.
Mind. It's a helpline.
It's a helpline that you can.
Okay. We want to say thank you very much, Mrs. Abosede Adediran. It was quite amazing to have learned all of this from you. So if you're there, you're listening, and you know someone that knows someone, or perhaps you also need help, please feel free to call the Lagos Mind. It's a helpline. You will definitely be attended to. All you need to do is to call 090 9000 6463. Again, 090 9000 6463. The 9000 is 9000. This is how far we can have it today on the issues. Special thanks to General Hospital Ikorodu, and of course, special thanks to the Mental Health Committee as well for availing this opportunity as we have talked about suicide prevention. My name is Opeyemi Adebambo, urging you to stay safe, stay healthy. Remember, your mental health is very, very important. Stay healthy, stay safe. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. God bless Ikorodu. It's a bye for now.